So continuing with Ecclesiastes, we're getting back into the ideas of here he has this one big idea that he's taking, talking about what is vanity and what is life, the philosophical understandings, and again, to share this with other people. Everyone has a sense of who they are and what they want to do. What is my point? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And here is the wisest king going into that for you and writing it down for you what his trek was. The idea that he went to mirth, he went to joy, he went to sorrow, and he saw that they all had the same things: vanity, vanity, everything is vain. But he does draw those conclusions that he's already hit a couple of times, and he mentions here at the very end, let us hear the conclusion of this whole matter: fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man, whether you're a king or whether you're not. For God shall bring every work into judgment, even every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. He's going to judge. What's the point of existence? Because you're going to be judged. He's drawing again the idea of if our existence didn't have God or judgment, it would be pointless. You can kind of do what you want, up or down, good or bad, righteous or unrighteous. And I like what he does here in Ecclesiastes. Sometimes we Christians are guilty of conclusionary Christianity. Well, why didn't you write that in the first verse and it would have been done? But to follow his thought processes. We could just, sometimes we just go, Jesus is Lord, and we give John 3:16. Really the beauty of seeing the process, the thought process that leads up to why you're making this statement. And again, in Ecclesiastes, he begins right at, vanity. He gives you kind of a conclusionary statement. Then he backs up why vanity is in vain, what he did. But here at the very end of the book, he's now going into what we can do because we're going to be judged for it. He goes here that for all this I considered in my heart, even to declare this, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hands of God. No man knoweth neither love nor hatred by all that is before them. You can't say if what's happening to you is an act of love or an act of hate. It's in the hands of God. So you have to just say, things are happening to me. How can I make what's happening to me glorify God? You're flipping the coin. Instead of me seeing whether I'm being loved or hated, I take the situation and use it to love. So the idea is you don't know whether that's love or hatred. All things come alike. There is one event to the righteous and one to the wicked. To him that is clean and to the unclean, and to him that sacrifices and to him that sacrifice not. There is an evil among all things that are done under the sun. And there is one event for all, yea, also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, madness is in their heart. And after that they go to the dead. So he's very, very simple. Whatever you're doing, remember, evil is in our heart, and after that we go to be dead. To remind us of our mortality, to, again, giving perspective to the whole thing. Sometimes sin or our lives or our struggles destroy perspective about why we're here, what we're supposed to be doing, what's the purpose of life. And what I like about this whole book is, what's the purpose of life is probably the question that we ask ourselves. And here, this wise man, the wisest man except for Jesus of Nazareth that ever lived, is trying to tackle that question for us. And he does it from a worldly point of view. I'm going to go off to mirth. I'm just going to give myself to it. It's in vain. I'm going to give myself to this. It's in vain. I'm going to give myself to laughter and joy. I'm going to give myself to sorrow. I'm going to give myself to abundance. And at the end of the day, what do I have? I just have a bunch more horses and a bunch more stables and a bunch more people and a bunch more. But a bunch more of what? And even the idea of the heart, that he talks about that earlier, that people, he's seen the evil in the sun, under the sun, that was done, that people would have what they want, and yet they right here it says, a man of whom God has given riches and wealth and honor, that he wants nothing, yet God giveth him no power to eat. He's not happy. He's got to have more. He's got this insatiableness. The eye can't stop seeing, the ear can't stop hearing. So he's talking about this, that he's seen this, and he calls it an evil. For him that is joined to all the living is hope, but a living dog is better than a dead lion. A dead lion can do nothing. At least a living dog can do something. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Neither have they any more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Now this one is taken out of context by the Jehovah's Witnesses to say that there's no afterlife, or at least no hell afterlife. They believe in heaven afterlife, so they play around with they really monkey with the scriptures to make that true. But the point is, he's saying in this sphere, where we are, because this is all dealing where we are. This isn't dealing with heaven and God's court and all these things. It's really dealing with our purpose here. For the living, we're alive. We know we're going to die, but those people are already dead. They're gone. They don't know they're going to die because they've already died. And they aren't here in our space-time continuum to have memory of what's going on now. They might remember then. And remember, he didn't have the story of Lazarus, and there are things that were going on. So we're actually able to take some of the thoughts of Jesus and fill in some of the holes here. And their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished. Neither have they any more of a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. They're not here participating anymore. I don't know what he thought about resurrection. I don't even know if he knew about resurrection. I just think that he knew that God is going to judge you. And after that, maybe he believed in heaven or some form of that. But the idea that, his idea was, once you're gone, you're gone. Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God now accepteth thy works. Let thy garment be always white, and let it in thy head lack no ointment. Live joyfully with the wife of whom thou lovest all the days of thy life, of thy vanity. If your life is considered vain and vanity, enjoy it. And I really think that's a key here. Many times when we're chasing things, we're not enjoying what's happening around us. We're not enjoying what's going on. And so he's talking about live joyfully. I did mark this in chapter 9 that it seems to be a pinnacle moment. It seems almost fatalism. What's the point? And then he goes, the point is live it. Enjoy it. For thou takes whatever thy hand finds to do, do it with all thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge in the grave. According to him, you can't do anything in the grave. You might as well enjoy what you're doing now. Enjoying your life now is more important than riches and honor and glory. And fulfilling your purpose. But you create your own purpose there. Your purpose is to enjoy your life, but not in the sinful way, because you're going to be judged. He puts God's standards into this equation. If we didn't have God's standards for judgment, then this would be a bacchanal. You could just do whatever you wanted to, sin or good, and he doesn't draw that line. This isn't a do everything you want, it's do good things. Even though some would say, what's the point of goodness if you're going to be gone? But the point of goodness is because you're going to get judged. And it's very personal, by the way. God's not going to look at us as a human race. He's going to look at us as individuals. I returned and saw in the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, for yet riches to understanding, nor is favor to men of skill, but time and chance happens to all of them. There is a sense of time and chance. Time is going to affect all of us. We do have things happen by chance. That means there's no, election. You can go off and, have a flat tire, or you can get sick. It doesn't mean it much in the grand scheme of things. Some things happen to you. Really, life is not about what happens to you. It's what you bring to that. What you bring to that. You're honoring God by how you handle that flat tire, how you handle that sickness, instead of all these other things. So again, he's saying time and chance happens to all men. For man also knoweth not his time, as the birds that are caught in a net, fish that are caught in the net, or birds that are caught in a snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth upon them. Evil times can come. And just like birds that don't know they're in a snare, just like fish that don't know when that net is surrounding them, they have no idea there's a net there. And all of a sudden, boom. And that can happen to us. Now, I will stop and say that when I think of time and chance, I ask God to help me be in the right place at the right time. If there's a net gathering, help me and my loved ones to be away from that net. So if you do understand the concept of time and chance, pray to God about time and chance, because we leave ourselves open to chance and think that's God's will, when we didn't bother to ask him, hey, when that drunk is coming down the road, can you keep us away from him? Can you have him stop, or we stop? Or most bad things that happen in a moment. I always think about, well, what if I slowed down 10 miles an hour? What if he turned left instead of turned right? There's all hundreds of little decisions that are made that create a car crash. Lord, help me to make a good decision that makes the cars not crash. So we can put God into our equation of time and chance by And again, I'm leaning really strong towards this thing talks about the participatory God. We don't have a God we participate with. We send up our prayers, they bounce along the ceiling. We hope he grabs the ones they want. We hope good things happen. But yet we can have a participatory God who cares what's going on, and he will participate with you. And, like when I'm going on a long drive, I don't leave it up to chance. I pray that God would keep away the bad drivers, the slick roads, the car breaking down, even though I do check all the fluids and whatnot, that God would take all these little moments that could create disaster and turn one or two things to where we take an odd road or maybe we do a stop, and then this person goes by. You get the idea that God can help you with time and chance. We tend to leave him out of the equation and then call him into accounting very passively when things go bad. And spending too much time away from this. But I really like time and chance here. The wisdom I've seen is under the sun. It seems great to me. There was a little city. He tells the story. There was a great king went against it. But there was a poor wise man, and he saved the city. But yet people have forgotten this wise man. We don't even know his name. He said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, a poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of wise man the words of wise men are heard in the city. Anyway, he's talking about the fellow here that had done the wise poor man. But again, he finishes 9 talking about that wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. We see a lot of proverbs coming in 10 and 11 and 12. More like the book of Proverbs, these little snippet ideas that come up. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. So the idea, you can be strong, but yet a sinner is going to destroy a lot of things. And again, we see Ecclesiastes here, at least in 10, is a bunch of proverbs, very much like the book of Proverbs. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to stink, so doth a little folly to him that has a reputation of honor. A wise man's heart is in his right hand, but a fool's is in his left. So the idea of what you're doing, wise men versus foolish men. He goes into this. Folly is a great dignity, and the folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place. He says, I've seen an evil under the sun where folly is set up in dignity, and the rich set in a low place. I've seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants. He digs a pit, and he falls into it. Whoever breaketh the hedge, a serpent bites him. Whoever removes stones shall be hurt therefore, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. He talks about how he's seen these things happen, that there is also a sense of cause and effect. I've seen the evil that has been risen up. I've seen where the good were put down. I've seen people caught in these nets. I've seen servants upon horses and princes walking. People will dig ditches in their lives. They'll dig pits, and then they fall into them. The idea that he's seen these things. The words of the wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of the fool shall swallow up himself. Again, that sounds very much like Proverbs. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischief. A fool is full of words. A man cannot tell what it shall be and what shall come after him. Who can tell him? So if a guy's full of words, but he doesn't know what's going to happen, who can tell him? He's not going to listen to you. The labor of the foolish wearieth every one of them, because he knoweth not how to go to the city. Woe to thee, O land, when the king is a child, and the princes eat in the morning. Blessed are you when the king is the son of nobles, and the princes eat in due season from strength and not from drunkenness. By much slothfulness, and the building decays, and through idleness of the hands the house drops through. Curse not the king, not in your thought, and curse not the king in your bedchamber, for a bird in the air shall carry this voice, and that which the wing shall tell of the matter. The idea, if you're going to be someone who's slandering or gossiping or murmuring, the king will find out. Given these ideals, again, very much like the perspective of the Proverbs. If you're going to be wise and you're going to live this happy life, here's what you're going to do it because of judgment. Many of this we Christians already know. I feel like that I'm covering some serious ground here that you're like, well, I already know this. But to see it again, to see Solomon saying these things that are very Christian to us. I mean, they were very stark at that time. That's what I'm trying to get across. There's a starkness to when this was done. Like I said, there was no Jeremiah, there was no book of Daniel, there was no Hosea, there was no Elijah. At that time, for someone to have such a stark understanding of these realities that we kind of take for granted, I think that's big. I think it's big that a man with only, this much of the Bible was able to draw such good, strong connections by what he saw around us, by the truth he saw around us. This even leans into Romans 1 about where there's truth. And you can just look around you and see God. You're looking around you to see the goodness of God. Cast your bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it many days. Now he goes into 11 and 12 saying good things. In 11, there's a lot of good things. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth, and the trees fall to the south or to the north, in that place it shall be. He that observeth the winds shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. As thou knowest not in what is the way of the Spirit, nor the bones of how they grow in the womb with the child, even thou knowest not the works of God, who maketh all. In the morning sow seed, and in the evening withhold not thy hand, for thou knowest not whether thou shalt prosper, neither this nor that, or whether thou shall be alike good. Truly the light is sweet, and the pleasant thought is it for the eyes to behold the sun. Talking about how we're going to pull in some goodness here, catching a bread upon water. The clouds have rain, but you don't know if you're going to prosper. You don't know if you're going to prosper, so don't get all wrapped up in the anxiety of needing to prosper. Sometimes you're going to have to face some sorrow and face some struggles, because we don't know the end game, though. We can't say because bad things are happening to us, God hates us. We can't say if good things are happening to us, God loves us. The benchmark will not be whether the things are happening to us. Those are for us to show where we sit with God. But it's the laws around us. It's the statutes. It's the commandments. It's, the goodness and the righteous acts that we can do. Those are the things that show God, not the end results. We get wrapped up in the end result, the end game. You are rewarded by passing, by running the race and by getting to the end. Your reward is at the end. Our reward is in the journey. It's the journey of life where we get our rewards, not just at the end. Sometimes we have to realize that God wants us to follow through, and have him participate in the journey. Again, live joyfully with the wife of whom thou lovest all your days. Again, he's going back to rejoice, O young man. I didn't even look at that. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou, for all these things God will bring into judgment. So, okay, enjoy your life, but realize God's going to judge you. The end is judgment. So in fact, it's funny, I didn't even follow that thought. I was trying to hold on to the thought, which is hard to do in Ecclesiastes. And I jumped backwards, and then here it was in the next verse. Remember your Creator, and this is where we're going at the very end here. In the days of your youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, even thou shalt say, I will have no pleasure in them. Before the bad days come to erase the good things. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Go back to your youth and remember your Creator. And this will help you to understand and get grounded. He spends the last chapter going for this. While the sun, nor the light, nor the moon, nor the stars are not darkened, nor the clouds return from rain, in the day which the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows are bleakened. He talks about darkness coming. When darkness comes, and we see a lot of this in 12, that the darkness comes and dark days are happening. He talks about that happening when the keepers of the house shall tremble and strong men shall bow themselves. Vanity of vanity, he says at the very end. All is vanity. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, whether it goes up or whether it comes down, it's all vanity. And so he gives all these proverbs. The preachers sought to find out acceptable words, and that they will be written, and that which were written was upright, and even the words of truth. The words of the wise are as goads, and a nail fastened by the masters of the assemblies, which is given unto one shepherd. Therefore, my sons, My son, be admonished to take many books, but there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. But hear the conclusion of the matter. Again, you can spend your life studying, but the conclusion of the matter, of all that he said, and here we are encapsulating this at the very end. So the idea here is, like, to us as Christians, this doesn't sound like, well, you already told me what I knew. But again, to see that a man saw all this at the time he was at, and it's to remind us, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Many times we lose that. That's the key. And knowing that God is going to judge your actions, good or bad, and we even talked about that. That comes up in Revelation, and we will get judged by our actions. And here's a man, again, this Ecclesiastes does give us some focus to remind ourselves what's most important, to remind ourselves of proper perspective, remind ourselves of who we are, of what we're supposed to do, and of why we're doing it. And I think people get grounded in this, and you can find yourself grounded in your Creator, the Creator God, which is Elohim, which is Jehovah, which is Jesus. So I really liked Ecclesiastes. I'm going to have to read it 2 or 3 more times. I'm sure there's some stuff in here I missed. But it's not just a book of doom and a book of depression. Many people didn't like it because they thought it was a downer. But it actually is very upbeat if you look and see what it's asking you to do. Love the wife of your youth and remember your Creator, because there is judgment coming. Thank you.